Hey gang, Vince here of Vince's Wooden Wonders. Thanks so very much for stopping into the shop. It's April 2024. Can you believe it already? We just had the solar eclipse a couple of days ago. 35 million people came from all over the world. We were, it was just about less than an hour you could drive and position yourself to where you were under total darkness. I didn't go. I suffered through it right here. It was a great day to be in the shop, as is today. So in this video, I want to take a few moments and talk about something. I'm going to be talking about products, and I'm going to be making a number of videos. It's been a long time since I've done this, and it just needs to be done. So in this video, we're going to talk about backup pads. The different backup pads that I offer in the different sizes, and why. Some things to look for, some things, just some information for you. So here we go. Let's start off with the 1-inch pad. The 1-inch pad, we offer two different pads. The first is a straight pad, and it's straight on the sides, goes all the way out to 1 inch. Metal shank, solid pad. I've offered these for years. Has a medium, kind of a medium firm foam, which I think is ideal. I also offer very soft interface pads that you can place on top of this pad if you would like. When you get to the higher grits, you would want to use this pad, nice and firm, for your lower and medium range grits, and then finish out with the very soft pad, interface pad that you can place over top. So that's the first pad. The second pad has a bit of a radius on it, and I call this the radiused edge 1-inch backup pad. And the reason why we have these is because this diameter is so small that we really cannot get into stacking interface pads like we could with some of the other pads. So with that said, we just make the backup pad itself radius, and our smaller discs are 1 1/8 inch in size. And the thing that you have to be cognizant of when it comes to this size of a disc is making sure that when it comes to sanding, you're sanding at a slow speed. If you get in there and start ripping it up at high speeds, because of the diameter, it doesn't take long to burn up the Velcro. So just be aware of that. So here we have our 1-inch backup pads. From there, we'll talk about the 2-inch backup pads. Now, before I get into those, I want to take a moment and jog your memory. You remember years ago, the backup pads that you would often see out and about they looked something like this. They were this off-white material. And what this is a latex foam. And I used to offer these for years. And the complaint that I heard, and maybe you experienced it as well, is that, you know, what ends up happening, Vince, is I often would get a tear right down the center. It starts to crack, it starts to give away, and I end up having to get another one. It just kind of wears out. And what it was is that, one, it was the material, this latex foam. Two, oftentimes it was that folks would start strong arming or applying a lot of pressure to these backup pads. And they're just not really designed for that. Again, as we always talk about, we want to let the abrasive do the work. Don't put a lot of pressure on the backup pads, whichever backup pad you're using. So this was something of the past. So now that that's gone, what I have switched over to, and I don't get the complaint that I used to get with these, using these sort of backup pads. This is a polyurethane backup pad. And while this isn't as thick, it's still kind of a medium firm density pad. This has a plate that goes all the way out to the edge nearly. It has a bit of a taper on it. But, you know, this pad with the Velcro, I just don't get complaints like I used to with these. So that's been the change, the direction. This is a flex edge backup pad. I have this in both the 2-inch and the 3-inch. Let me show you what the 3-inch looks like. It looks like this. And with this, it has a little bit more of a flex to the edge that's available. But again, with that said, you don't want to apply a lot of pressure. You don't want to really flex this edge. You want to allow the abrasive to do the work, and using your interface pads, hopefully that's going to help you get to places that you otherwise might struggle. But this is what our flex edge backup pads look like. Again, excellent Velcro, polyurethane, metal shank. You can't go wrong with these. I've been offering these now for years, and I've been using them for years myself. Let me know if you have any questions. From there, we'll talk about what I call the Blue Blaster backup pad. Two different shapes. You've got a little bit more thickness in the foam, but again, I just don't get any complaints. This is a different type of foam. It has an excellent Velcro, a nice shank to it. Backup pad, again, this pad, the backing plate goes out to the edge, or all the way out to the 3-inch on these. A little bit more straighter shanked, as you can see. Again, excellent Velcro. Nothing wrong with the stem or shaft on these. And this is what our Blue Blaster interface pads, or backup pads, look like. Excuse me. From there, let's talk about one that I get questions on occasionally. This is our ultra thin backup pad. People say, well, Vince, this doesn't have any foam to it. Well, again, this is going to help you get to places that you otherwise might struggle. And you're right, while it doesn't have a whole lot of foam, the idea is, again, you're going to allow the abrasive to do the work. So whether it's the 2-inch or 3-inch, it's got a nice plate on it, takes it all the way out to the edge. You've got a metal or aluminum shaft on it, and stem, if you will. Again, excellent Velcro on all these backup pads, so I don't have any problems with those. It really all depends on what type of work you're doing. But again, this backup pad may help you get to places that you otherwise might struggle, like underneath lips and so forth, as opposed to having a larger foam, such as the Blue Blaster. And finally, we have what's called the Soft Touch backup pads. Let me back up. On both the Flex Edge and the Blue Blaster, these are more of a medium firm density. They're fairly stiff in regards to the foam. With the ultra thin, there's not much foam to speak of, so it really doesn't come into play a whole lot. But with the Soft Touch backup pads, just like the name says, these are going to be our softest offering in regards to backup pads. And these come in slightly smaller. This is about 2 7/8 in diameter. And this one here is just a little bit smaller than 2-inch. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know it's a little bit smaller than 2-inch. But again, a little bit softer as far as the material that we use, that is on this backup pad. Excellent Velcro. Again, we've got a metal stem shaft. And if you've worked with me, if you've spoken with me or heard me give demos and so forth, you'll always hear me say that I don't recommend using a soft pad with a grit such as your lower grit, such as your 60, 80, 100, and 120. I believe that you always want to start with a nice, medium, firm backing of sorts, because what you're doing is trying to dig out the deep scratches and tool marks. And while it's tempting sometimes to have a really soft pad or even a soft touch pad, what ends up happening is that you end up pressing a little bit harder to get that pad to get that disc to get in there and dig out those deep scratches and tool marks. And with that, you can burn up the Velcro. It will, these are this Velcro is like, think of them as little hooks, J-hooks, if you will. And what happens is if they get heated, they melt. And when they melt, there's nothing to attach to the disc itself. So the disc ends up flying off. And oftentimes people can think there's something wrong with my discs. How come they won't stay? It's not the discs. Look at your pad, whether it's an interface pad or a backup pad itself. Just a tidbit. So anyway, that is our backup pad lineup for 2024. Also, a nice addition, as we're talking about backup pads, is this little gem right here. This is called our Quick Change Backup Pad Adapter, if you will. And it's very simple. Some people like to use just one backup pad for all of their discs, and they put a disc on, an 80 grit, use it, remove it, 100, remove it, 120, remove it, and use one disc for all of their grits, if you will. Some folks I've met like very much to have a different backup pad for each grit, because then they're not tearing on and off their discs as often. So watch this. You just put that in there. This is going to be attached to your drill, right? And just slide this in, give it a quick quick flick of your wrist there, locks into place, zip, 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 80 grit. Take this out, done with this pad. From here, this is your 120 disc, for example. Zip, zip, zip. Remove that. This is your, 180 grit, for example. You get the point. Also, too, say, for example, you just have one drill and you want to switch from 2-inch to 3-inch backup pads, but you don't want to have to get the chuck key out and loosen everything up. Use this. Switch between 2-inch and 3-inch. Just real handy to have. It's our quick change adapter. It's available right here at Vince's Wood and Wonders. All right, now back to the backup pads. We'll be talking about discs and interface pads coming up. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Vince at vinceswoodandwonders.com. If you haven't signed up for our emails, I don't blitz you 10 times a day or even 10 times a week. I'm just not that guy. I tend to send out emails when I think that there's some pertinent communication that needs to take place. So it's not just, hey, look at this, and hey, look at that. It's, hey, we've got a sale going on, or there's a special that I want you to be aware of, or a new product, something like that. Also, take a moment, if you watch that YouTube at all, check us out on YouTube. Vince's Wood and Wonders should get you there. Vince Welch using interface pads. You'll find the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification. We're going to be putting out a few more videos. And as always, I really appreciate all of your support. Thanks so very much for checking in. We'll talk to you soon.